everybody. Welcome to the August edition of the ZenduMaps webinar series. My name is George. I am one of our channel and partner program managers here. I do see some of the names on the attendee list, and it's very nice to see your name again. I'm going to be introducing Vishal, who is actually going to be running the presentation today. And without further ado, Vishal, if we can just take it over to the next slide.
Awesome.
As I mentioned, today's topic is on ZenduMaps. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Vishal Singh.
Hey guys, how are you? Well, good to have everyone here. And yeah, we're excited to talk about ZenduMaps. There's some features and updates relating to ZenduMaps. As we're moving into a seasonal change for a lot of government fleets, it's also a very timely discussion. It's something that we also want to have a good open collaborative discussion. At the end or through the presentation, feel free to drop in your questions as we move along. But wanted to start by giving a quick introduction to the team, talk a little bit about the product offerings and updates, then go into some of the tools and features. And again, we'll have lots of time with the Q&A side of things as well. Talking a little bit about the ZenduIt channel team. And you just spoke to George. George is updating his picture, so this is the avatar he's given me. But with regards to Jag and Ron, I'm sure some of you are familiar with working with them. I just wanted to give a quick introduction also to our product team. And this is just want to kind of give you an idea of the scope of some of our products and solutions. We today are focusing on ZenduMaps, but we have other product managers on our side helping you on other applications that you might be or may not be using. So just a quick review of some of the other people on our team. Afra, who a lot of you are familiar with, is our primary product manager on ZenduCam Tracks, has introduced the camera, asset tracking, and indoor BLE solutions that we spoke about last month. Archit is newly joined us in kind of the product manager on ZenduMaps. And Akshay is on more of our productivity solutions relating to dispatching, time carding, Zendu maintenance, and forms. So moving along though, just quick, again, summary of ZenduIt and what we do. Again, our focus here is about building fleet management apps that complement the platforms you use today, whether it be Geotab, whether it be Tracks. And we're really looking, when we develop these applications, what we're really thinking about are use cases to specific industries to help you penetrate those industries with a lot more focus, and also help engage customers with particular problems you can solve with these apps. So today we're going to talk about application that is catered more towards government sector in waste management, winter maintenance, as well as in patrol, but also talk about it in the context of some features for private fleets. Our team focused on software integrations. We have a number of integrations also with governments who use ERP systems like AssetWorks or CityWorks. And these are tools that are government programs that are in ArcGIS, government programs that we interface with, as well as we do some consulting as well with some of our customers. So just a quick recap. These are some of our in-house product offerings. As you know, we have cameras and solutions, which generally kind of lead our primary kind of product focus is on our cameras. We have various applications in routing, dispatching, Bluetooth, indoor asset tracking, mobile forms, Zendu reports, driver training application, as well as Zendu maintenance, right? And if you have any questions relating to some of the other applications, you can also visit our website and also sales@zendu.com. But today's focus will be on ZenduMaps. And, we've, over the last 6-7 years, we've kind of established a bit of an expertise on working within the government sector. We've worked and partnered with a number of companies through an RFP process. So when companies are when our partners are going to through an RFP process, we assist them through helping them address certain questions that may not be meeting through whatever platform they're using, like a Geotab, and we kind of help fill those gaps in with our applications. And we have applications in busing, in ZenduMaps, and we'll kind of cover some of that today, but just giving kind of a scope of our expertise in the various industries we work in. Focusing in on ZenduMaps, I'll jump right into it and get started. So what is ZenduMaps? ZenduMaps is an application that really helps our customers better leverage mapping capabilities. So what that means is it allows them to interface geotab data onto maps like ArcGIS, or bring in external maps from ArcGIS and other GIS programs into a platform like Geotab, right? And we work with a number of government customers with the ZenduMaps. Some of the main use cases we'll cover off today on why they use ZenduMaps. And some of the features we'll cover off and talk about is the ability to create a public shareable map, the ability to create routes and have these routes being monitored and managed for route completion and progress, and importing zones into Geotab using shapefile, but also importing routes using this tool as well. And also other tools such as proximity and playback that help in various government use cases. So going into it, our key audience are municipalities, road patrol, winter maintenance, street sweepers, as well as private fleets. So I'll start by talking a little bit about some of the general fleet use cases, and I'll kind of give you a feel for that. Actually, I'll just do a quick live demonstration of it. So one use case that we often get is, and this can apply to any fleet, is really around, you get a complaint or somebody identifies some issue at a particular address, and the first question is you don't know who was there and why they were there, right? So, you could go into a trip history, we can look and try to search through and see, one by one. But, we have a proximity tool that just simply allows you to put in an address, or a zone that might represent where that issue occurred. You can put in a date range and also filter out who was there and when, right? And here's where you can actually then identify trips for a particular date range of who was there. And if you're investigating a claim or an issue or something that happened, whether there's a claim against you, let's suppose, relating to, hey, was this area plowed, or was there a complaint that somebody, cut somebody off or whatnot, you can kind of then investigate who was there by using this kind of reverse proximity lookup, as well as doing a kind of a proximity playback here, right? Looking at that, right? This is just a proximity tool. I can download and print this. This is kind of one of the features of our ZenduMaps tool. Another thing is looking at a route playback, right? Now, if I have a particular vehicle where I want to play back, especially when I have them doing some street sweeping or some plowing operation, I might want to take a look at some vehicles and see the activity. I can pick a vehicle, and here's time frame range. I can see the speeding here as well, and I can simply just play back the time frame across this for the particular vehicles that I'm actually looking at. And this is kind of something that you can kind of take a look at, over a period of time. You can also show various exceptions as well. So if there's particular events that you want to monitor, you can also kind of take a look at that. So just a simple tool for playback, allowing you kind of playback history, and especially when you're looking at multiple vehicles operating in, for winter ops, could be quite useful there as well. So just covering off these two components. But this leads us to kind of the main feature that our ZenduMaps is designed around, is creating public shareable maps, and maps that you can then leverage for a variety of purposes. The most typical use case and purpose is around creating a map for the public to kind of see where your vehicles are. For winter ops, it's about where the roads have been plowed, which ones have not been plowed, and also looking at some compliance standards around that. So the tool allows you to, define what vehicles you wish to share, allows you to select, the various vehicles you wish to share, And within the groups, if you have various groups that represent, like let's say it's plowing, you can actually pick a plow truck. So you can actually organize your vehicles on your map in that way. You can then select the number of vehicles, and what you're noticing here is it's just kind of giving you a little bit of a preview as you kind of set this up. And this is something that we have some cities utilizing for winter ops, and they can kind of get a nice little preview here. And here's where we can actually look at route completion and compliance. And this is where, if I'm looking at the progress of how quickly my roads are being plowed, often there's against certain roads, you have to plow certain roads, within 4 hours or 2 hours to be compliant to road regulations. So you can actually set up compliance standards. Here you can also show me data for just the last 24 hours. You have the ability to only show vehicles and information within a particular city limit. So you can actually draw a zone and have only vehicles show within that zone. So any vehicles outside of that zone will be hidden. Under compliance, you have the ability to also enable forms. So this is a new feature that we've introduced, which I'll kind of talk to you about. But basically, this allows the public to report issues on the actual map itself that you're sharing to them. So, just think about a 311. Often cities have a 311 where you call in and you can report an issue, a pothole or some sort of issue that's out there. Now, this is just a tool that allows now, the cities to get information through a publicly shared map. And so you can create forms and then have the public report information through those forms. Additionally, there's some other widgets here you can actually create like a little bit of an informational board as well for the public on how to use the public shared map. So these are some functionalities here, and how you could then view this information is once it's been shared, once you hit save and share, you can actually copy the URL. There's an embed code which you can put on your website. And it's really as simple as just kind of then sharing a link to somebody. Now, so if you did want to just share a particular vehicle, you could do that, but you could also share it, across a number of different vehicles. So just kind of quick little FYI on that, and that's the tool here itself. So kind of take you forward a little bit on this presentation, and feel free, guys, to jump in on any questions. If you integrate, and I'll just answer them as they come in. So if you integrate this solution with GeoTab, everything set on the map in ZenduMaps can be seen in GeoTab as well, on the GeoTab as well. Yeah. So basically, in this example, we're in GeoTab environment. So that means that however we're defining our settings here, this is all groups and vehicles coming from GeoTab. So that's an important point to kind of note down. So hopefully that answers your question. And again, George, and if that's, let me know if you feel I'm answering these questions effectively. So yeah, I'll continue moving here. So once I've set up my maps, I've shared them to the public, you can see some of the methods in which I can share it. This is how it could look for like a winter operation. Now in this operation, you can see roads that maybe have been plowed are in green, 0 to 4 hours. 4 to 8 hours have maybe their age. So it's an aging color code. So for a city to know that the main highways are completed in green, you'd want to see those in green. And you can also set up rules such that the plow has to be down or sweeper has to be activated in order for these colors to show in green, right? To the left of this map, you can see some instructions that kind of help guide the public users to knowing what is this information all about and purpose of all this information. It allows people to also search their address to see, when maybe their area might be plowed, right?
David,
There's
so
also some
we have a couple of questions. Sorry to cut you off there.
Mhm.
One question, aside from ArcGIS, can the system work with QGIS or plans in the future to integrate with QGIS?
Yeah, so we work with a number of different GIS products. I'll have to see if we're interface with QAGIS. But are you asking the question around like importing data into? So one of the things we do is we import roads from a shapefile. So if QGIS, presents us a shapefile, we can import those roads in. When we talk about, sending data to ArcGIS, we have this little inbuilt little tool that allows you to create a web layer inside of ArcGIS. So basically, these are geotab. These are web layers that you can actually copy and paste into ArcGIS, and what it does is it creates like a web layer on top of geotab, or sorry, on top of ArcGIS. So I'll give you an example of that. But that's kind of the ArcGIS integration. Now you can still import roads using QGIS, and so let me and I'll cover off the differences between the Geotab Public Works, creating web layers, correct, being able to create web layers, and yeah, so we've done that with some other GIS products, being able to create web layers, WMS layers. So those are something that we can talk about and look into. That's something, but maybe we can kind of dive into that separately on that. But yeah, and I'll cover off the differences between Geotab Public Works. So one of the differences against the Geotab Public Works is our ability to, and there's a number, like one is creating public shareable maps is not something that exists in Geotab Public Works. So what I just showed you in terms of creating a public shareable map, that's not in Public Works. But so you can create a public map, 311 type map. So that's number one. Some of that functionality about having right now also a Public Works. There's some customization that has to be done at the Geotab level on the reporting side, which I'll go into. But this is more kind of a map sharing tool, 311 type tool. So just and I'll cover off a bit more detail on that. So one of the aspects of public map share and 311 is about being able to provide a interface for the public to communicate with the city, right? So here's an example where the public can actually go in and report a defect or an issue on a map, and see, they can click on here, select obstruction. They can say, hey, there's a pothole here, right? They can even take a picture, and this information can then be submitted back to us to take a look at, to then, or the city to then dispatch the work out to somebody to actually address, right? So this is a new feature that we've added to the tool. And how does that carry over the next steps? Now somebody reports an issue to me. Next step we really want to do as a public user is then dispatch this work to one of my fleet technicians, or somebody who can actually address that complaint. So through our Zendu work tool, we can actually then dispatch that work out to some driver to then go and service that request, right? So that's and there's an escalation path to actually servicing it. So a little bit of the operational side of things, right? And you can kind of see here, there's a new work tool. A work order can come in. It can then be a due date, and assignment can be attached, and then it can go on the driver's mobile device to actually go and address that job, right?
Thanks so much, Vishal. We have another couple of questions in there. Would this also work within the Caribbean, or is it unique only to specific countries?
No, it can work in the Caribbean. So this is just a software interface. So if you're currently having some GPS, telematics, live data that you're working with in the Caribbean, then there's no reason why this tool can't work. It's completely web-based, so there's no limitations in terms of maps. There's might be some limitations on languages, so I don't know if there's a particular language that you're looking for, but overall everything's in English, so you should be okay there. Now here's the route compliance tool. This route compliance tool is, I'm going to shift towards now from the public map share into route compliance. And again, I'll talk about the key differences between Geotab Public Works, but also some of the similarities as well, so we kind of understand that, right? So one thing is important to note is, our solution and software is quite user interface oriented in the sense that you could build your own maps, you can import your own roads as well, right? Where some of that effort required is on the geotab side sometimes when you're actually doing some importing and whatnot, right? But coming into actually setting up a route, and this is kind of the first step of any defining route completion and route compliance, is you have to import your roads, right? Or elements that make up your route, right? So generally those are shape files that can be produced by QGIS or ArcGIS or whatever GIS software you're using. And in there we can put road names, priority class, and we drop this shape file in, and it can actually then represent, oops, I can kind of look at showing you an example, but then it can actually help us define the roads that we're actually want to actually define as for a route completion, right? So I'll kind of go into that, but let me just kind of go back to my slide deck, and I'll show you that in just a second. So here is where once I've imported the roads, I can then kind of define the sequence of roads that represent my routes. And then once I have activity on those roads, I will again see those roads going to green, right? This is a little bit different than the public map where I'm just seeing all activity of vehicles. This is activity specific to the roads, right? So on these roads that I set up, and this is also for those of you not too familiar with the winter operations, is some of these roads are requiring to be serviced around every 2 hours or 4 hours, whatever the road compliance standards are. Especially highways, you're going to service the highways a lot more quickly than you are residential roads because there's more activity there. So when you set up the routes and roads, we want to actually define how often or how quickly those roads need to be serviced. And when those roads are serviced within the appropriate timeframes, they're green. When they actually when it expires, they'll go back to red. So it's becomes a tool that also allows managers to quickly and easily identify how to prioritize work on these roads, right? And stepping forward here as an example, this is an example of how I set the road up, a route up. So if I create a new route, right, as an example, here's a route. I can then, I've imported all my roads using the road import tool and shapefile. And then what I can do is then I can click the roads, or it can automatically set up my route if I've properly have that file set up. But basically these roads will represent the sequence of roads I need to service for this route, right? And once I've kind of set this up, this also will kind of factor into the driver app. But this is how I would set up a route. And then I can also run a report against a particular time frame. So if I look at for February 27th to 28th, there was, let's suppose, a winter event or some sort of event I want to actually check the activity on. I can see, okay, for this date range, 17% of that route was completed. Those roads were serviced for whatever time frame it was, right? And that's simply, again, by looking at trips, compliance by trips, or it could be by a rule. So if the plow is down, I can see that the roads are going green, right? So this is how I could then monitor the progress and completion of activity against my roads, from a winter maintenance point of view, right? So this is then there are also reports that you can download, and it can also be scheduled to you on a regular basis, right? But this is kind of how you'd set this up in the tool itself. Any questions on that? Continue kind of going here. And again, I'm just going to kind of take a look at this here. You can see, which vehicles can service this road. You can actually put, various types of roads. This is just our demo database, but you can also set up compliance standards for different road types. So when you import roads into, let's suppose, GeoTab, you have zone types, and those zone types you can put like, different compliance standards for different zone types and different colors as well. So just something to keep note of. But this is just a quick little example here. I'm going to continue moving on here. Again, this was the shapefile import tool. I'll come back to that pricing question. But when we import the roads, that'll help us set up the routes. And that's kind of the main components of the route management tool. I'll show you how this also factors into the app. But before I kind of do that, just quick notes on ArcGIS integration. We kind of skipped ahead a little bit, but this is just simply allows me to create public WMS layers that I can then feed onto ArcGIS. I have to double check on QGIS, but that's something that we can. I know we're working with other GIS softwares using WMS layers, so something that you can take a look at. This presentation will be shared to you, so there is some information, YouTube and some other Google Docs setup information, so you can kind of see how that's done. But this is how it could look like in your GIS software, right? So if you're using ArcGIS, you can then see vehicles and with appropriate icons in your software, right? So you kind of live map here, right? So this is a new app that we're launching, and this is one of the areas that our ZenduMaps tool was really good with was on their managers and supervisors. They can see the progress of their routes. They can see activity against the routes. But they're on terms of communicating with the drivers. A lot of times drivers do know their routes. They're quite good and diligent around, what roads they need to service, and they kind of go and they do those every day. So that they're generally pretty good. Now, you get new drivers, or you want, as a driver, I don't know when. Let's suppose I need to service a particular road because it was done 5 hours ago, and I need to hit that road every 2 hours. This app allows drivers to then see that, right? So as just kind of giving you kind of a workflow here, I can, as a driver, search the route I need to get assigned to, right? So I can click on this route, and then when I'm assigned, I can then also see it in the software from my web browser. As a manager, I can see which driver is assigned to what route. And then as a driver, as I'm driving the routes, I'll be able to actually see that the roads are going green as I'm completing the roads that I'm assigned to. At the same time, I'll also be able to get a good high-level view of the completion of the overall progress of the route, right? So in this way, I can have a good kind of overview and understand, the completion. I'll be able to also search, and switch a route if I need to. Now, it's not a turn-by-turn navigation app. It's kind of more top view looking at things, although we are kind of considering that as a potential phase 2, the turn-by-turn component, but there is something where we've had where we can launch it into Google Nav as an option. So what it does is takes all the roads and puts it into a route path using on Google Maps as well, right, for Google Nav, right? But in general, our hope is that this is useful and sufficient for a manager or for a driver to kind of see as a reference point. Generally, they'll know their routes and sequence they need to go on, but this gives them that color coding, which gives them good feedback around what roads they're completed and are in compliance, right? In addition to this, especially when we're talking about things such as waste management, there's often issues within waste collection where you're not able to pick up garbage because of some sort of maybe a raccoon, or maybe it wasn't placed correctly or the right bin. Now, this is a tool that allows the drivers to actually place where an issue has occurred and actually mark down the nature of the issue and submit a comment. And again, this can then be maybe fed into some GIS softwares or fed into some tool that you can actually then review at a later time, right? So just any questions on the driver app tool before I kind of move on?
Yes,
George,
we
as
do.
we're answering some questions, if you can just hit answer on them, that way it can kind of filter through and
Sure,
address.
and we do have a question on the mobile application. Is the mobile application a turn-by-turn navigation app? Question mark.
No, so it's not, right? So it's just an app that allows you to kind of see from the top view, right? So it's not giving you turn right, turn left, turn right with audible commands, right? It's kind of more in this view that you're kind of seeing here. But we do, like I mentioned, have this navigation to launch into Google Navigation, right? Now, that's something that, but we are kind of considering as a phase 2, potentially turn by turn. So we're going to first kind of evaluate the uptake of this app, and then we'll kind of look at the turn by turn solution for based on the demand.
Thanks so much for that, and I hope that answers that question. We have another one here. How do we get access to the Tracks application? Question mark.
I'll jump into that. Maybe I'll kind of finish up on this point, and I'll kind of address the tracks questions because there's some updates there. And then if you want to just close off some comments here
Yep.
to this unanswered section, just some things relating to the application. So it is an application that ZenduMaps is something that is being used by a number of different municipalities, been featured in some news articles. I think the fact that it's pretty easy to use is kind of a big bonus to kind of how well it's being taken up. Right now, talking a little bit about the differences between the public works also here is that public works has different reporting structures. So something that, if you're using Geotab with public works, it's a great tool. It's more focused on some of the salt spreader reports, right? Where tool is more focused around the public mapping, 311 communication, and reassignment, as well as a driver app, right? So those are the key differences that are here, right? What I've shown you here these are the differences, right, that are here, the app and the other component around public feedback, right? So hopefully that kind of helps give some of that feedback. How
And
many stops?
yeah, there's one more question here. How
Mhm.
many stops will this possibly handle for routing within Google Mapping? And then what sort of reports can we get from this solution?
Yeah, so with Google Navigation, I believe handles 20 points. I believe 20 to 40 points. I'll have to double check that. I think that's publicly available. You can see how many points that Google Maps will take on a points of interest. I'm thinking, I try to remember if it's 20 or 40. So, but I think we can kind of Google that and find that for you. So maybe somebody, George, you can Google that and help answer that. In terms of reports, I can show you some of the reports that are available through the solution, and I'll kind of pull that up, giving you an idea of that. But let me just kind of give you an idea here. Any other questions?
Currently, no, just those.
Give me a second while I pull up the reports. Here's an example of some of the reports that you can get. So when you're running a report based on a particular time frame, you can get green. You can it'll give you kind of an image of the roads that were kind of assessed, but also gives you a progress percentage completion against all the roads that were completed for that time frame. This is a general report that can be available for you when we're pulling out a particular time frame. This can also be scheduled to you as well, right? There's other dashboards that are kind of also in the system. Now, this is just a demo database. I didn't pick any particular time frame or date range, but you can there's widgets that relate to substance spreading, activity, life status, and then they can be kind of displayed in a way which you can actually kind of display here. You can also do the reports based on trips. So here's where I can actually look at some trip-based reports as well, substance spread based on what roads and trips that were being done. But I think we can kind of take this off at a separate conversation with some more detail, with some reports if you kind of want to look at a bit more detail there as well. So then if I've answered the GS question, I'm going to just mark them completed here. Just make sure we answer the questions. Okay.
And Vishal, to answer the Google Mapping questions, 9 points is the maximum number of stops currently available in Google Maps.
So, that's an area that potentially we could look at doing a little bit more on. I mean, in terms of the being able to launch Google Map, but again, this is something that we're also considering within our second phase to our application, is to being able to do more doing more of a turn-by-turn type of solution as well here. But I think this is generally the reason why I think turn-by-turn is not as relevant sometimes for these types of applications is generally your drivers, if they're running the same route, like let's suppose a garbage truck driver, right, running the same route, he knows generally if you're driving the same route every every day of the week, he'll drive a different route, but generally they'll get familiar with what they need, and it's more or less about turn by turn because they know where to go, and more about submitting defects. That sort of makes sense, right? If you can kind of think about it from that perspective. But moving on for tracks, talking a little bit about some of the updates that have come out into play. So one update, and this is relevant to Geotab, is like, Geotab has this new feature around device sharing, right? And they've had it for some time, but now, there's a fee associated with device sharing that Geotab provides, and you can do this on your own through MyAdmin, and you can do device sharing. There's no need for you to interface with ZenduIt for that, but we do provide this tool for device sharing where you can pick a device and share it to different databases, right? So that's kind of a general purpose of this device, but because there's a fee associated with it, we're looking at ways in which we can help customers who'd use Geotab to be able to share data between different databases, because this was something that was quite requested, and also something that is so often needed by companies that operate with a lot of contractors. So if you have a company that has, let's suppose, an authority, and then they have contractors, and the contractor wants to see his data and devices in his database. The authority might want to see devices, their devices in their database. They might have separate rules. And so sometimes that's what the purpose of this sharing mechanism is, right? And so what we've done is we've introduced our own sharing tool inside of ZenduCam Tracks. And what we're doing is we can take Geotab devices and other platform devices into our platform. So any other telematics platform we're integrated with, like Keep Trucking, Samsara, all these guys. We basically can take those devices, put them into Tracks, right? So that's number one. We take all those devices and into our middleware through Zendu One, and we can put them into Tracks, and we can interface these other platforms into ZenduMaps and these other tools as well. So what we're doing is, once we've when you sync up Geotab devices, you can then also do sharing privately between one ZenduCam database, Tracks database, to another Tracks database, right? And so we added this feature where I can go in here, click on a device, click on Share Device, and then I can share that one device from this one database into another database, right? And that could even be a Geotab device. A lot of times it would be a camera, so you can actually share video and live stream between two databases, right? So just kind of an FYI. This also has the feature to share, similar to what we were doing with ZenduMaps, also do a public share as well. So this is where the use case for this is sharing to a customer the ETA of when a vehicle will get to their location, right? So let's suppose a customer calls you and says, hey, when will your guy be here at this location, and I have this delivery I need, and so you might not want to get those calls like 5 times, right? So the question is, you can then click on this vehicle, click on Share Device, add public share, and then what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to put the address of the customer in and hit share. And what the customer gets then is an interface that looks like this, where they can actually see, your company's logo. They can see the information around, a description. If you want to put, as a fleet manager, I want to put a description for my end customer, I can put that there. If I'm Jane Cooper, it'll show me as the one who's sharing this, the address, and it'll also show to the customer the distance and time away, right? Now, on this interface, as a customer, I can then see, kind of in an Uberized format, their distance and time away from my destination, right? Now, when that driver arrives, or when if I would click on send feedback, I can also put kind of a 1 to 10 score, an NPS type score, against that delivery as well. So this is a new feature, a sharing feature that we've also introduced into Tracks, also called ZenduCam. And that's something that is being made available to you guys. So our plan and our roadmap is to grow our ZenduCam Tracks platform, such that it kind of becomes a kind of a good middleware to all of these solutions and applications. Additionally, we've launched Zendu One, which we spoke about last month. So we are a roadmap to we've launched our video review module, but we're also launching ZenduMaps in here as well. So you basically, drivers have one application, or managers have one application where they can then interface with all the other apps that they might use, right? So this is a nice, convenient way other than like having 10 different apps, that you might have to download. So pretty convenient. The video review module is something where provides kind of an interface like this, where I can see the video, I can actually see the speed limit, location, and I can also review and mark whether I've reviewed the video or not, right? So it's quite a nice little inbox. We've also have through the assets module, you can see vehicles on the road, current status of the vehicles. And then for our indoor tracking, this will also be a key tool for location, right? For driver learning, also there's a module there as well. So being able to provide coaching for drivers, right? Coming through here, some Q&A, and I'll jump into the roadmap. But just covered off some of the updates relating to ZenduMaps, some of the updates relating to ZenduCam. But any questions that I can take a pause here and help maybe answer some other questions?
Yes, thanks so much for all that, Vishal. We do have a couple of questions here, and I know you touched on them, but it doesn't hurt to go over it one more time. Does the map link share allow me to share an ETA with a customer?
So ZenduMaps is more designed around doing it for more of a government fleet where they're doing a bunch of vehicles. You can certainly use it, but it's not an ETA sort of thing, right? So if I shared a vehicle, right, to a customer, I can simply click on, create a map, and then put a label here, and I can pick a particular I can pick a particular vehicle I want to share. Let's suppose I just wanted to share a particular vehicle. I can go here, Gary New, and I want to just share this vehicle. I can then hit here, share and save, and then it could just show me where that vehicle is. So I could use it for a purpose like this to share customer the location of vehicle, but it doesn't show the ETA on this application, ZenduMaps, for ETA purposes. Now, this is something we could certainly consider, but that's also kind of one of the reasons why in Tracks, which we're focusing and developing on our ZenduCam Track solution, that does have that feature for ETA. So I just want to make that important distinction that our ZenduCam solution has that, as well as the ability for your customer, the end customer, to actually give a review as well, which will go back to the sharer. Does that answer that question?
Thanks so much for that, Vishal. There is another question here that kind of backtracks a little bit. Does the ArcGIS integration allow me to bring in ArcGIS maps into GeoTab instead of the normal Google Maps? Question mark.
So the ZenduMaps doesn't do that directly. That's certainly a skill that we have here, and that's certain that we do. It's done slightly differently. A lot of government agencies will have some of that skill that they can kind of do on their own a little bit through. If you look at GeoTab, this is just a little FYI for you guys if you want to talk to your city customers. Just giving you kind of an idea how that works. So if you go here to maps, right, and this is just in relation to GeoTab. By the way, we can bring in custom maps into ZenduCam as well. That's a new feature. But if you go here to add a template, you can go here to add ArcGIS, and you'll see this is kind of an example of how you can bring in ArcGIS maps. And generally what cities will have is their own hosted maps like this. A lot of times they won't. So, but if they do need map hosting, that's something that we can do, and we can host their ArcGIS maps and set up a web layer like this, for them if they need some help there.
Awesome. There is another question here. You may have answered this question already, so I apologize. Does the Zendu Work solution provide integration with native navigation via Google Maps when the driver starts the order? basically, can they get turn-by-turn directions once the work order is accepted or link to navigation from the work order slash job assigned to them?
So yeah, Zendu Works is not doesn't do really a turn by turn type solution. It's kind of more of a here's your work order, update the statuses, complete a form. It does give you a map view of where the job is, and it does give you a link to jump into Google Nav, right? So our kind of applications are more designed around like a shortcut into opening up on Google Nav to open up and kind of do it, right? So I don't know if that sort of answers that question, but it's not like we don't necessarily have a turn by turn navigation app. But that is something we're looking at. And the main reason why we're looking at turn by turn navigation for ourselves is due to the fact that Google Nav doesn't do truck based routing, right? They're just using city roads. And so basically it's assuming that anyone can drive any road, right? Which is not the case. Trucks can't drive on your residential roads, right? So this is something that we are kind of looking at. But yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's a turn by turn.
Michelle?
Perfect.
And we have two more questions along the same lines. Is there a trial slash how can I test this? And are you on any type of government pricing program?
I think maybe you can answer those questions, George. You're the channel
Yes,
guy.
yes, there is the ability for you guys to trial. Between Ron and myself, we can be in contact with you to discuss any opportunities at hand. And are we on any government pricing? I do not believe we are.
Yeah, we're not on any Sourcewell program. So if you're asking about, hey, is there a special pricing list that we're on Sourcewell, we have been looking into that where we can be listed as a basically negotiated price where it's easier for governments agencies to buy if it's already on a group negotiated pricing plan like Sourcewell right now. So we're not on any of those contracts, but we kind of there's ways in which we can kind of bundle things within Geotab. So that's something we can kind of discuss in a little bit more detail. But in terms of testing, of course, we want to make sure that customers are comfortable and it's a good fit for them. So certainly, we're happy to kind of do some testing on that. Now, I want to go quickly through the roadmap as well, just so that we have an understanding of what we've talked about and where we're kind of going. Interested in seeing more reports solution. Yeah, okay, perfect. So we'll take that offline in terms of reports. So we'll share some things and we can kind of get into that about what we can do with reports. And if Roberta, if there's a particular report or something that you're looking for, I think we can also talk about that, and maybe there's we can make sure that we're kind of have kind of what you're looking for there. We have built one of the things we are doing actually with reporting, I should mention, is that we've kind of migrating all of our, not migrating, but we built a BI tool called Zendu Reports, which interfaces with all of our applications, Geotab, if you're using Subsera or whatever platforms you're using, or, tracking, time carding, dispatching. So we're building this all into our Zendu Reports tool. And what that allows us to do is have a lot more flexible reporting, but also build reports that are designed for specific industries. So that's something that we're focusing on, putting reports into our Zendu One application. And we'll talk a little bit more about Zendu One as a platform, but it'll be kind of a tool that will allow you to interface and jump into Geotab, ZenduCam, Zendu Reports, ZenduMaps, kind of as a main layer. And I think that's where you'll see a lot of interesting reports. So just going over the roadmap, we've launched the ZenduMap One mobile app, and we're adding more modules to that as we kind of talked about. Indoor tracking, we're trying out with some channel partners now as well. So this is an area of focus for us where we're actually looking at not just tracking things outdoors, but indoors, and how we can actually do that better and provide better insights for our customers. Time carding we did in June, and we're continuing to have some pretty cool success there and enhancing that. Last month, we launched some new updates with relation to security clearances in our video review app. We've added in some new BLE beacons. We've integrated a new Beware asset tracker onto a Trax ZenduCam platform. We've also launched with a partner our bus ETA app and solution. Next month, we're going to be looking at, or this month, we're currently working on a rules engine. So we're updating our rules engine, new fuel level and diagnostic reports with some of the trackers we have. We've interfacing with Q Alert and CityWorks government applications, ZenduMaps feedback tool, which we've shown. Next month, we'll be launching beta for our new camera. So we're looking at, we're launching a new ADAS camera solution. So something we can stay tuned for. Facial AI driver assignment. So we're leveraging AI and facial information a lot more. There's a lot more tools we have to kind of see what we can do with that. Something we're working on, as well as device sharing with tracks, something we talked about today. And then in Q4, working on our Zendu Work application as a middleware. A lot of companies use the other ERP systems, and they don't necessarily need a whole dispatching solution. They just need the mobile app. So we're actually bridging that. We've done that with TruckMate. So some customers use TruckMate as a trucking management tool, and we provide a bridge to that. But we're going to be doing that through updating our API. So just some updates. Next month, we're doing a school transit webinar. So you can sign up to the webinar here. There's a link, and we will send you this presentation here after we're done as well. But yeah, this busing tool, again, we're trying to go into areas where not necessarily as penetrated when we're talking about indoor, when we're talking about busing, when we're talking about these tools. These are the applications that allow you to penetrate those areas, right? So this is why we work on these applications. And by being more, solution oriented into these niche categories, that's where you can, I think, make a difference, from your business point of view. So we're happy to kind of work with you and even solution ideas in which you can penetrate various markets using these applications with new strategies. So something we can talk about.
And hey,
Yep.
Melvin, yes, we will send you the mapping presentation once we commence the webinar.
Perfect. So that's pretty much it. And so thank you guys for your questions.